Well, greetings, social media friends. Happy Tuesday. Dr. Jeff Riggenbaugh back here with you for another Tips Tuesday, where I give you a tip for dealing with the difficult people in your life. This content is all in this free social media series is coming to you all from my new book, Disarming High Conflict Personalities, and the coaching program that goes along with that, where each Tuesday I come to you here on social media and I give you a tip or two or three for dealing with the difficult people in your life. Today we are talking about the yes man or the yes ma'am. And by the way, if you haven't gotten your top 10 tips for dealing with a yes ma'am or yes man, click on the link below and grab that tip sheet as well. If you do that, you will get on my email list where you get a weekly tip, tool, or tidbit for dealing with the difficult people in your life and some other additional resources to help you in this area. Today's video is about the yes man, and we're going to look at 3 red flags, things to kind of keep an eye out for that might tip you off to the fact a little bit sooner that you are dealing with one of this particular type of difficult person in your life. So, tip number 1, red flag number 1, I should say, is that these people, this is the essence, big shocker of the yes man, but these people cannot say no. So be on the lookout, even in the early stages, for people that just can't seem to say no to anything. If this is a job interview, maybe ask them questions that 9 out of 10 people would say no, and see how they handle it. I worked with a gentleman who started asking questions along these lines based upon our work, and the question that he asked in this area was, and you got to be careful how you ask stuff depending where you work, what your environment is and what your regulations are, but he would always say something to the effect of, he was interviewing for like a middle management position, by the way. And he would say something like, well, he says, the person who filled this position before you would always get my coffee every morning and occasionally run my dry cleaners, to the laundromat. What are your feelings on that? Okay. And so, most people who are interviewing for a management position, even middle management, you're going to get a little resistance. But this yes man, here's the point, is going to say yes to just about everything. So if you don't have the observational skills to notice this just in everyday discourse, or if you've got a limited amount of time, such as a job interview, or you're meeting with somebody at a kind of an employment fair, and you just have a few minutes over the table exchanging words, those kinds of things, then you can ask targeted questions to get a sense to gauge these kinds of things. If it's in your personal life, maybe you a person's a vegetarian, so you go out of your way to say, hey, what'd you think about if we went to the steakhouse tonight? Okay. Asking questions that no would be the expected answer, and see how the person handles it, because this type of difficult person just can't say no. And some people say, hey, isn't that a good thing? Maybe you want people that doesn't give you a lot of trouble. And yes, there are some pros to that. But to the degree that this becomes extreme, there's going to be some cons as well. Likely, if they're going to say yes to everything that you ask them to do, they may say yes to everything other people ask them to do as well. One thing you can do to sort of get a feel for that is just ask the question. You pose a situation, a hypothetical. Pretend a coworker comes to you and asks you about this, or wants to talk about this, and you've got a deadline such and such by this kind of time. How would you handle that? Or something along those lines. So tip number 1, we're really trying to hone our radars in early here to what's this person's capacity to say no. So that is red flag number 1, a person that just can't seem to say no. Red flag number 2, that you might be dealing with a yes man or a yes ma'am, is that the person is just extremely passive. So really watching for this, again, in the early stages of a relationship, or if they're your roommate, or again, if it's an employment situation. Does this person have the ability to take initiative and do something on their own? Because yes men are not self-starters. They can't just generate an idea and do this on their own. So if you're in a job interview, maybe ask questions like, tell me about a time that you initiated a project and oversaw it or led it and followed it all the way through to the end. And tell me about a time that you took initiative to do that and how that went. I was working with a young lady who had a roommate that she kind of took on the motherly role. She was only 4 or 5 years older than her, but she did everything around the apartment, laundry, planned the meals, these kinds of things. And so we had her ask one time, would you mind? I've done this 3 straight weeks. Would it be possible for this next upcoming week? She asked her on like a Wednesday, so she had a few days' notice. Would you mind just taking some initiative and planning out the meals? And I'm flexible to eat whatever, but would you mind doing that? I'm a little bit worn out. And see a person, sort of assess a person's ability to take initiative, do things on their own. So it's related to the can't say no, but it's a little bit different. Are there people that are in your church group, people that are always on every committee, that they can't say no? So yes, they're serving in every single capacity. The people that just can't distinguish between what is good and what is best in their situation. They have the idea that no is somehow bad, although once they get on that committee or in that situation, oftentimes they're not taking in much leadership, taking much initiative to help out, which, depending upon the purpose of the committee or the board they're serving on or whatever it is, may be more or less advantageous in certain situations. But we're looking for that ability to say no, and we're also looking for the ability to sort of be a self-starter, take initiative. So those are your top 2 red flags. Red flag number 3 then is related to both of these, but we want to specifically focus on relationships. So do they say yes in the context of relationships, okay, to the detriment of a stated goal that they have or something that they've been asked to do, a requirement that they have placed upon them in their life? So are these people that are, calling into work sick pretty regularly because, oh, my sister is in crisis, so I have to help my sister out, or my adult daughter is in this abusive relationship, and I don't mean one time going and help her out, making a move or whatever, but regularly something comes up, and, every week, once a week, calling in sick because of this, or, when they get to work, somebody comes over, oh, hey, do you got a second? Well, I really don't, but yeah, they're going to say yes. Or somebody's upset, a coworker, a situation with her teenage daughter getting in trouble, and she wanted to vent to the coworker. And yes, men are always going to say yes to these kinds of requests. In your personal life, maybe you got I'm thinking of a situation where there was a girls' retreat that these ladies in their 30s, it was about 6 of them, I believe, that every year they'd take an annual, I don't even think it was a full week, but it was kind of a getaway to kind of a regional lodge or spa, and they'd be gone for 3 or 4 days. And it was just the girls. It was one time a year that they got to just have them time. The rest of the year, they were invested in their husbands and their families and their jobs and their volunteer work. But just this 3 or 4 days, every year they would do this. And this one particular lady, well, when that time came around, her husband said his stomach wasn't feeling very good, so she ended up staying home to take care of him. Or that one time when something comes up, you just you have a date with somebody that you kind of like, and you think they might be pretty cool to get to know, and really maybe has some of the things you're looking for. But when the date comes up, your niece who's having trouble with her boyfriend calls you and is in tears. Are they going to say yes to every request that comes up relationally, to the detriment of something that they say is important to them and really is? But this quality within them, this more dependent sort of quality out of control, causes them to say yes in a way that gets them in trouble in one of these other areas of life, or keeps them from achieving a goal that they want to achieve, or doing something well that they want to do well. So there are your 3 red flags for that you might be dealing with a yes man, somebody that always has to be saying yes. That's obviously the essence of the whole personality. Are they extremely passive? Do they just have difficulty making decisions on their own, being self-starters with regard to tasks or projects or whatever the case may be? And then do they emphasize relationships to the point that it's detrimental? And again, as with all these, we're not just talking about one or two times, but if this is if it's ingrained in their personality, then this is going to be happening over time. So I hope you found that helpful. If you haven't got your tip sheet for the top 10 tips for dealing with yes men, click that link below. Grab your tip sheet if you would like to the rest of the red flags or other tips or strategies for dealing with yes men or other difficult people in your life. Go ahead and pick up the book there as well. Get your copy, and you'll find a bunch more strategies dealing for different types of difficult people in your life. Hope these top 3 red flags served you well on this Tuesday. Hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye for now.